This is a deep interview, man. Shout
Yeah.
out to the listeners. I know everybody, the audience is appreciative of what you bring out of your guests. So, how do I want my legacy to be remembered? Um, I want to be remembered as someone who wasn't totally consumed with himself,
Mm,
but really believes in something and worked hard to bring it.
mm,
That always wanted to treat people right
mm.
and loved his wife and his kids, his family, and wanted to do right by them as well. Um, yeah, that's what I want my legacy to be.
So hi everyone, this is Jacob Fortung, the host of Doers Within Us. I am really excited to introduce our first guest for a recent collaboration with the African Diaspora Network. This time, I know if you guys have been listening to the podcast, we were interviewing a series of Betas for Africa's Future. We had some really fascinating entrepreneurs all focused in Africa. Uh, this time, based on our very just great relationship and collaboration from the last cohort of entrepreneurs, we are now, I'm now excited. I mean, just being honored to have our first guest, Nehemiah Mabry. Um, Amazing portfolio, just a great background of a person, and we're going to learn more about him today. This collaboration is specifically with the cohort that has gone through the African Diaspora Network. It's called Accelerating Black Leadership and Entrepreneurship, ABLE. And just a bit of background about ABLE, this is an enterprise accelerator program designed to strengthen, energize, and support startups and small businesses led by Black entrepreneurs in the United States. So this is very exciting. And I'm just so honored to have Nehima here just to share his story and talk a little bit about his company and what, African Diaspora Network perhaps have kind of guided him through this process. But more importantly, want to know the person behind the curtain, who is Dr. Nehima. And it's such an honor to have you here. Thank you for being the first guest. And
Oh man, the pleasure is all mine, Jacob. And you know what? You can call me Doctor Nee or Nee, right? That's what my friends call me. And that'll work just fine. But man, I can tell you, it's an honor to be here, not just on the podcast, but also on behalf of Able, the wonderful program I was able to be a part of, and just to share some things about my story and what we're doing over at STEMedia.
definitely. And thanks for just thanks for, like, I mean, and we're gonna talk throughout the podcast, but just thanks for being you. I can just tell there's that presence that you bring on the table. So Dr. Nee, can we just to begin with, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, um, it's a good start. It's a little bit broad, but can you just please share?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm a young boy from the
Yes.
southeastern region of the United States.
Mm,
Born in Georgia, came up in Alabama. I now currently reside in North Carolina, and right now, man, I'm really enjoying life as a engineer, educator, and an entrepreneur. But even beneath that, right, throwing out a lot of titles, I just consider myself again a husband and a girl dad.
yeah.
Uh, three incredible girls, and I have this passion, this symbiotic relationship with inspiration, right? There's something inspiring about inspiring. And
Mm,
that being said, that is really what brings the ethos into STEM media. And
mhm.
our mission is to elevate and empower unrealized STEM success.
Yes.
And that's me right there in a nutshell.
That's amazing. I think I love what you said. There's something inspiring about inspiring.
Yeah.
That is tweetable right there.
Yeah.
Um, how old are your girls? You have three girls?
Three girls, they're all 5 and under.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. 5 and under. One just started kindergarten this week. I
Mhm.
love I love them, man. They are incredibly encouraging, even when they don't know it, right?
Yeah.
Because I see their potential and I see, this is the things they pick up and the things they're paying attention to.
Yeah.
My wife and I, as we are raising them together, it's a whole new reason and why behind why we do what we do.
Yes. 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 Man, this is already inspirational. We need to end the episode right here. This is all good. What done? Already done. Just so, can you take us back to where everything began? I mean, you're
Mhm.
briefly kind of giving us a brief background about yourself. Can you tell us, like, how was it growing up? How was your environment like? What really shaped your mindset? Because from what we see, you are the results is really good. Um,
Mhm.
as a person, you have um I would say that's the definition of success, right? Sounds like you're a great dad. You have understood the ability to the importance of education, and you not only educated yourself, but now you have built something that you want to give back to society,
Yeah.
while being, a great father, and and doing everything that is just what a great citizen is like. Can you take us back to what was the things that shaped you along the way, the principles that guided you, or perhaps I would just add to it, the mentors that helped you build that mindset to what you are today.
Yeah, no, I'm still growing, still developing as we all are. But yeah, I owe a lot of where I am now to a number of people. And I usually start with my father, right? My dad was someone who was aspirational in many ways, still is aspirational. He had a lot of ideas he would just throw out. I think things, some of them, a majority of them were things he thought about when he was a kid. He's like, yo, you should try to start this or
Mm,
begin that. And I just remember he recommending engineering to me,
yeah.
and he noticed that I had a couple of things that were just common in my childhood. One, I enjoyed like saving things and trying to invent things. Like
Yeah.
I had a junk drawer at the top of my dresser drawer in my room, and I would save all types of stuff. And whenever I had free time, I would try to configure and invent different things around the house. I enjoyed Legos.
Mm,
And then also I was pretty good in math. And it wasn't really something, you don't always know that you're good when you're a kid. Like you're just being a kid. You're just following your curiosity. But
exactly.
oftentimes it's the affirmation that comes from someone that says, "Hey, you're really good at this. Stay
Yeah.
with it." Right. And that was my father who first recommended engineering to me. And so that's how I kind of went down the path of STEM. He actually was studying engineering when he was in college. And that being said, it was down that route that I began to meet other mentors. I had a mentor named Dr. Curtis Banks when
Mhm.
I was able to intern at a place called NASA. Dr.
Yes.
Curtis
Wow.
Banks was one of the people who just regularly told me, "Hey, when you get your PhD, you should do X, Y, and Z." He
Mm,
would speak it as if it is a fact. Like I never considered it for myself, but that's how he would talk to me. And so
yeah.
he was a really big mentor. I had a lot of other mentors and just advisors in my time there through my internships at
Yes.
NASA. And I remember there was also another lady that said to me one day, she said, "Keep up your entrepreneurial instincts." And at
Mhm.
the time, I never considered myself an entrepreneur. I was a very active person on my college campus. I led like an improv group. I was a leader of other organizations, and she
Wow.
recognized those leadership qualities.
Yes.
And she also recognized sort of that hey, let's figure it out. Let's make something happen. And so Miss Barbara was another person that said to me, "Hey, let me talk to you for a second."
Mhm.
And the whole time she just really poured into me, encouraged me, and said, "Keep up the entrepreneurial tendencies and instinct that you have." And that being said, I began to kind of combine all these things, right? As I grew up, went through college, got a master's degree, went on to get my PhD. That's what brought me here to North Carolina State University. And it was there that kind of all these ideas of education, of engineering, and of entrepreneurship kind of came together to form what we know as STEMedia. And then I can go down the list then, right? Because when STEMedia kicked off, there were people who believed in me and supported me there, even at NC State, by names of Miss Angie Daniel and Dr. Louis Martin Vega and Miss Jenny. Like all these things and all these people really, really poured into me. And I love the ability,
Yeah.
Jacob, to tell them thank you. And I still haven't even felt like I got close to thanking them to the extent that I want to, but just the ability to see them and remind them, hey, if it wasn't for you, if you didn't remember, pour this into me or plant this seed,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing the stuff I'm doing right now.
Man, this is just such a wonderful um it's making me teary, man, because that's it's a very important conversation, right? I mean, as in the United States,
Mhm.
about how do we empower um people of color, since when George Floyd passed away. And not to make this about race, but
Yeah.
there is some element of within especially the Black community, dads not being around and not being there to support. But you're just a perfect example that there's still very some solid parents out
Presence. Yeah, there's still some present fathers, a lot of present fathers that often get overlooked, and the value is immeasurable. The value is immeasurable.
Exactly. And I know this podcast, Doors Within Us, we try to highlight entrepreneurs and investors that are making a difference on the self markets or community for local and global impact. One thing that I have learned throughout my interviews and just amazing conversations with people like you is that as we always put a lot of golden stars next to the results of companies and how well people are building great companies or transforming communities, at the end of the day, these intangibles, that affirmation that your dad gave you early on, it's a very small and then probably you're a very young boy, but those small seeds are being planted, they become big impressions on how we define ourselves. You set your chest up, those small things, they become macro definitions about yourself that I really think that as this is the first section of this very long conversation, but I think that set the foundation for many things. It was a ripple effect that led to your identity on how you see yourself, the perception of yourself. And I think that's something that we should never, I have really learned to acknowledge that small seeds planted when you're very young have it's like infinity stones. They create a long-term impact.
Absolutely.
On how you define yourself, the spouse you find, how you raise your kids, how you define yourself, and how confident you are, how you show up and as we have been talking, I can just tell there's this essence you bring.
Oh man, thank you.
Yeah.
And that essence is a result of other people's essence, right? When you're able to spend enough time around other people who are positive, other people who want to leave a lasting impact, when you surround yourself with other talented people who have visions and are inspiring in their own right, it kind of like creates amalgamation of who you are, who you become. And like whenever we walk into the room, right, even as you host me on a podcast, I'm sure I'm not just being interviewed by you, but many other people who you've learned from and many other people who have influenced you. And so, that essence even is something that is accredited to so many other people. And that's really the goal of STEMedia too, to find us in a place where it isn't solely about me. It isn't solely about how much I can do, but to create a platform, an environment, a synergistic community, right? So that the lasting and the ripple effects can go not only throughout that community, but far beyond it, to the fact that our world is a better place. Human potential is unlocked in a whole new way.
Amazing. And so now talking about STEMedia, can you give us what is it? What is STEMedia? And please give us like a pitch.
So STEMedia is an ed tech and media company for diverse workforce development, particularly in science, technology, engineering, and math. So we started out media production as kind of our initial product line, right? Or our initial service, rather. We will be hired by organizations, higher ed, corporate institutions to create content that predominantly focus on recruiting, retaining, engaging, and educating technical talent. As we've done so over the years, we began to build our own community through our original content and events that we began to put on and presence on social media. Now over time, it has evolved into a platform. And the goal now is to build a platform synonymous to like Masterclass or LinkedIn Learning or Discovery Plus in a way that we are able to consistently provide community, content, and career opportunities, particularly for underrepresented individuals in STEM fields. We're super happy because we've been able to do this over the years in a number of ways on a one-off basis. But we have a beta subscription platform right now also that people can gain access to year round, as well as our B2B sales and recruiting can take place, job postings, sponsorships for access to this vibrant network.
That's inspirational. And also that's highly needed. I see a lot of there's a market in it.
Yeah,
There is there's a great and it's not just relevant as a a kind of you know skills where you get to learn skills, but also it's important for the economy, right? It has that.
totally.
Yeah, so there's a macro impact as well on a national level. Um, truly, truly amazing. If you can just take us a little bit, how did this idea? I mean, yeah, I know you've talked about your engineering background, you talked about this exposure to just mentors, kind of you build that story for us, but from a very kind of practical, tangible, how did you? How was this idea created? How was it conceived in a way that it became a company? You know, we have very
Yeah,
big side hustles and stuff like that, but this is a company.
yeah,
It's a real thing. And you know, how did you get there? Especially as a from our backgrounds, like we have this. The transition sometimes gets really
sure,
muffled.
sure.
How can you please guide us to how you actually built?
Yeah. No, I started in a place that a lot of people may find themselves at now,
Yeah.
and that is I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I know what I like. I know what I like to do.
Exactly.
I know what I enjoy. So let me do that first, right? And so when I first got to North Carolina State and prepared for my PhD program, the first year of my PhD program, I already gotten through undergrad, master's degree. I was made aware of this program and this campaign known as Stay With It, that was to address the attrition or people dropping out of engineering. And
Oh,
Intel, MTV, and Facebook at the time sponsored this video contest to basically motivate engineering students to stay with it. And I remember at the time I needed some extracurricular activities. I knew I had a lot of creative interest, background from undergrad. So let me put together this video, I said to myself, on a day in the life in engineering. Got my friend, follow me around campus. He's filming me. We're doing scenes. We get together, we edit it, we submit it to this video competition. And long story short, won the national grand prize. Incredibly
wow.
happy. Got featured on MTV. Thank you. Facebook gave us a shout out. And Intel also began a relationship where really after that began to make more and more videos just kind of free of charge because I really enjoyed it. Other creative ways to inspire students.
Yeah.
Now, when that happened, it came out and it became even more apparent to me that this wasn't just a localized or an immediate problem. It wasn't acute, it was chronic. Like people were starting STEM careers, but not finishing them. And
Yes.
more so at a higher clip, this happened in among Black and Brown students. And so people began to request, hey, can you do this for our after school program? Can you do this for our nonprofit organization? Can you do this for my class? I want to make some curriculum content. And so I remember at the time, somebody was telling other colleagues about me, and it was like, hey, he has a company where he does this stuff on a regular. And at the time, like, I was like, I don't really have a company. I mean, it's just, I didn't know it was a company, right? But it was a company. And so what happened was I got incorporated and I began to now do this at a higher clip. As I was also going through school, my goal was to lift as I continue to climb my route through STEM. And that being said, putting more and more out attracted like-minded individuals and other people who had similar ideas and similar perceptions of
Yes.
what STEM could look like, what representation could look like. And our mission has gotten refined over time to where now, all right, let me get an accountant. All right, let me get a bank account. All right, let me get some paper things in writing. Let me figure out ways to advertise on the internet. And over time, it sort of organically grew all the way until I would say a year and a half ago. As I'm already graduated from my PhD, working in the field as an engineer, I decided to say, hey, it's time to make a transition to full time.
Yes.
Right? If I'm gonna go all the way.
Yes.
So it shifted from like a part-time
Mm-hmm.
sort of side hustle, right, to
Yes.
becoming a full-time, fully adopted mission, of which now involves building this platform, both
Yes.
technically and creatively, so
Yes.
that we can become a premier source for diverse recruitment of technical talent.
That's amazing. It is the natural progression that comes with that, right? And I think for most people, they always start at the end. They try
Yeah,
to create a company, then figure out what's the value proposition.
right.
Then it affects the full-time job. Then now what was full-time has now become
Right.
part-time, right? Because now
Right. Shifted. Yeah. Engineering went from full-time to part-time, and
yes,
STEM media went from part-time to full-time.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's something that you mentioned. It's once people started saying that, hey, this is something that um you might help out with, right? And I think for aspiring entrepreneurs who are actually listening to this podcast is once you start having that, people are reaching out to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes the signals don't light up. Like the signals are sent, but you don't really get
You don't really get it. Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
get it. And I think sometimes there's that disconnect. Um, and sometimes people it doesn't turn on. People get intimidated, they get scared. They say they're not ready yet. And I think your story shows that, and out of many too, it's like that's when you have to switch it up, even if it doesn't, there's a fear of failure and all that. But just to our audience out there, sometimes that's when you need to take the next step. Kind of take that next step and say, okay, let me try to organize this. Let me try to do
Yes.
something.
Yes.
And I think you did a perfect job to make that transition.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know this follow-up question is not necessarily part of it, but how did engineering help you, the engineering background help you in designing this company?
Oh man.
Yes, can
Yeah.
you
Nah.
share about
Well,
about
hey, that's one of my favorite things to talk about, because the engineering mindset not only helped me build a company, it helped me find what I would say my purpose, right?
mm,
Because
mm,
engineering is about problem solving, and
yes.
ultimately, I believe that we are all to add value to the world, and
Mm,
that there's some problems
mm,
that we are to solve in the world. And that being said, it allows you to first of all ask the questions like,
mhm,
what do we need? What are the constraints? What do we have? What do we not have? Right? Secondly, you can begin to imagine what the solution it might be.
mhm,
Imagine, right? Create this vision, what you need. And so that's where I went for. I'm like, okay, what could this become? After I began to kind of do my thing, now what is possible, right? Every step of the way, what is the next thing? And then it's the plan. After you imagine, it's like, all right, let me go. What are the steps, right?
mm,
Milestones, benchmarks to
mm,
get this vision executed, or just the next goal
yep,
accomplished.
yep,
And then after the plan, right, engineers, we execute, we
mm,
create, we
mm,
begin to make it happen. Let's go ahead and like bring out the calculator, right? Let's
mm,
go ahead and make sure that we can find the appropriate equations so that we can get the outcomes and the numbers we need to
mm,
design and tweak and make this system come to life. And then
mm,
after that, engineering mind says now it's time to improve,
yes,
assess it, look
yes,
at it. Okay, how would this turn out? Where
yes,
can we tweak? Where can we get better? And that
exactly.
has been a repetitive process throughout the building of STEMedia, and
Yep.
even in my life. Right?
Mm,
Originally, I didn't have a purpose that involved three girls. Right?
mhm,
I didn't know who they were. I had no idea who they were when I was in school. But when they came into my life, now I began to kind of iterate and improve. How do I spend my time throughout the day? How
mm,
do I make sure I make strategic moves so that as they come of age, become more aware of what finances are, of what spirituality is, of what social responsibility or politics is? How can
mm,
I create values and a structure so that they can become the best version of themselves? And so
yes,
that's the process that I think is effective both personally
yep,
as well as professionally. And
yes,
doing so has allowed STEM media to grow and even me to grow to where I am now. And I'm going to continue doing that moving forward.
man. That's mic drop right there. Um, just to add one thing, I think or no, just highlight the improve is
Yeah.
critical. Improve. I think most companies
Hmm. Hmm.
stall rather, or
Yep.
just flat because that improve. And I think engineers have that ability to easily look at it and improve.
Better.
I
Yeah.
love it so much. Improve is the element. There's this delta of growth. What makes you become just an entrepreneur to a great entrepreneur is that improvement
Sure.
that builds it up. So just to go on that, what's your? I know with COVID things kind of we don't do 5-year plans anymore. We do 2 years
Okay.
because we don't know what's gonna happen.
Yep.
We're not
Yep.
that ambitious. But
I
if you
tell
can,
you, sometimes it's like even shorter than that. But you're right. It's like you don't know how 5 years is going to turn out.
so so now I used to ask what's your 5-year plan for your company, but now I ask what is
Oh
it?
man. I can give you the vision for sure. I can definitely give
Please,
you the vision
please
for
share,
sure.
please share.
Yeah. So I mentioned before some analogy brands that people are more familiar with, right? Masterclass does a great job of making high quality educational content.
Yep.
LinkedIn Learning adds a component of networking and ability for corporate engagement and even recruitment to take place.
Yep.
But then beyond that, you look at the entertainment value of a Discovery Plus or dare I even say it, BET Plus, right? That has sort of the sauce, the culture, and all of the resonance that makes it feel like home for a certain demographic. So we want to become a premier source for content, community, and career opportunities for Black, Indigenous, and people of color across the globe, particularly in the STEM disciplines. So we want to build up our content library so that people can find whatever they need in career development and professional development for whatever career path they're interested in. There's a larger user base so that people are able to network and find peer mentoring and advice to connect with people wherever they may be online. And we want to make sure that we have a widespread partner network of both universities and
Yep.
corporations so that there's an influx of degree opportunities, educational opportunities for people to upscale in a formal manner and get certifications, but also find jobs and career opportunities that allow them to be fulfilled and again make an impact on a globe. That's the vision for STEMedia. I think that this will bring value, within the community, but also beyond. Because I don't just think that Black people should only be educating Black people. I think Black people can educate non-Black people, right?
Yes.
I think that we can become experts in our field within our community and beyond our community.
Yeah.
And so that being said, the name STEMedia is to note even that fact that though we may have a predominant or a special interest in a
Yep.
certain demographic, we believe that doing this is going to elevate the gross domestic output of the human race. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Man, it sounds like I heard like a presidential campaign speech right here. Are you
That's just
announcing
my
your
excitement,
candidacy
man.
for
Natural
president?
enthusiasm. Yeah.
No, I mean, those are big dreams, and I think they have to be applauded. And also, there is this it correlates with what you're doing, right? There's a framework behind it which you have tested, you have tried, and you can see that it works, and you can go on a global scale. But I love it. I love it so much. I love the fact that you're taking the culture, or just even the essence of how you saw a kind of a value within the Black community, but there's something that can be extended to the Caribbean, to Africa, to Latin America, to Asia.
Sure.
And I think that by itself, as biased, perhaps be as a Black man, I love to see bringing that to world, because the world needs us as we need the world.
Absolutely.
So that's truly inspiring. It's like I feel like I heard from Martin Luther King, from Obama, mixed up with Tyler Perry. There's a lot that
I like that. I'm gonna use it. Obama mixed up with Tyler Perry. I got you.
Kind of grind that up. So like kind of can you just talk briefly how the able, because I got to know someone like you through the African Diaspora Network. Can you just briefly share how the Able Cohort program helped you kind of the company, or just the way you thought about how you approach this challenge, or just education in general? If you can just share a little bit about how and that's just added value to your work.
No doubt.
The Able program.
Able added a lot of value, and really the first and foremost thing, it really validated, because the application process for my cohort began shortly after I went full time into STEMedia. So I remember like applying for it. I was nominated by a good advisor of mine, and that was in many ways sort of like my first attempt to say, all right, cool, is this going to be something that I can like stand on, that my family can stand on? And when I got accepted to the program, it first and foremost just validated me. But then you add on this the wealth of knowledge that we were able to get through their partners and the people who taught and provided workshops, from finding product market fit, building your board of advisors, getting funding, how to make sure that you have a customer persona. We got so much education that really gave me new knowledge, but also language to basically communicate and go about the strategy that I kind of already inherently was doing. And so it added a lot of value, met a lot of phenomenal people. I'm in the East Coast, North Carolina. Now I have a few counterparts right on the West Coast where they're based. And that really just elevated, again, my confidence and my knowledge of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think that validation is really helpful, and I think it helped you at the right timing as well. And you know, we it's always good to kind of be part of programs like this because you also create relationships.
For sure.
You're not alone in this movement. Thanks so much for sharing that. So now going now into the inspiration part, and I think I really love this section because it brings out, I think, maybe the essence of what the podcast was all about when I thought about this, but also kind of giving back to community in ways that, you know, it might be in a book you're going to write in the future about your entrepreneurial journey, but
yeah,
you know, people can get a sneak peek of what your biography will be like, which I know you're going to write a book someday based on your story. You have to write a book, at least 2 books, one about STEMedia and about your story. This and this question I think is just very mundane, but like, what advice would you give to upcoming entrepreneurs, especially you know, people that are trying to be are trying to start a company? What's your take on?
Yeah. My advice to upcoming entrepreneurs is, first of all, be clear on not only what you could do at a high level, what you enjoy, but then what you could also can do at a high level. And that doesn't necessarily mean what you can individually do at a high level, but what you can lead a group of people to do at a high level. And then after that, you have to make sure that that particular thing meets a need in the marketplace, that there is people out there that is willing to give you money to provide or to receive that thing that you are passionate about and can do at a high level. That's really basic what it comes down to start a business. After that, man, you got to find a way to keep yourself motivated because you're not going to always feel like it. So whether it's YouTube videos like I like to do, spending time praying, meditating, exercising, you got to find a way to keep that engine going, to keep yourself energized and motivated to move forward. That's the advice I would give younger entrepreneurs. Sure.
Yeah, so we're talking about the advice that you give entrepreneurs, and I think that's very solid. I would take that, and someone that have dabbled a lot in entrepreneurship, I think that's 100%, of 100% right. The way you address that advice is very practical, if I can say that. How do you keep yourself? I know you mentioned the YouTube and doing things that makes you to stay motivated. Are there, and I may have to ask this, are they like what has worked best for you? Do you read books? Do you exercise? It sounds like you have a very lovely family. You mentioned earlier in the podcast that you're looking at your daughters as a kind of way, to leave a better world for them. Is that like the compass for you? What keeps you? What is something that you consistently do, or it can be a combination of things that help you stay afloat? Entrepreneurship is really hard. Can you just share with us?
How I keep my engine going, right?
What's your recipe?
No doubt. So I actually, I do. I'm listen to books actually. I'm an audiobook person, right?
Oh, yeah, one of those.
And I definitely believe in quiet time, personal time, meditation, devotion, exercise if you can with it. But I didn't touch on this either. Like my faith, I'm a man of faith, and I actually keep the 7th-day Sabbath. So like every Saturday, I don't do any work, right? It's more time for family and to connect with the Creator and to really just rejuvenate myself spiritually. So that being said, like 6 days, 24/6, right? I tell people I work 24/6. But that 7th day, right, is definitely a day to refresh and be restarted. And so that being said, man, going to the park, walking around the park, reading books, about personal development, spiritual development, and really exercising, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually from a standpoint of, hey, if you regularly try something, that muscle will get stronger.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe faith is all about, right?
Yeah.
You try to do an event, you want to raise $5,000 and you hit it, you got to start out, right? Saying that, hey, what if I don't accomplish this, right? You don't have to think like that, but I mean, like, that's the real risk you're taking.
Yes.
But if you can exercise the faith, the mental and emotional capacity necessary to get that $5,000 event off the ground, then next you're going to be strengthened to say, all right, let me stretch myself and try to get to 10 grand.
Yes.
All right, let me see if I can do 50 grand, right?
Yes.
Let me see if I can do more and more and more. And I say this, again, not focusing on the dollar amount and even not focusing on the physical work involved in that. But in every larger and larger attempt, you have to have the stomach, right? The faith, the fortitude to say, I'm gonna put myself out here, and yes, there is a possibility for failure, but I'm gonna give it a shot anyway. And guess what, Jacob? You're still gonna fail sometimes too. Yes. But you know what gives you the strength to get back up? Yes. Your previous conditioning. Yes. Right? Just like you get injured on the basketball court or whatever sports arena you're in, but because you have been conditioned and you are used to the process of building muscle, right? You get right back into a system, into a going, and you'll be able to recover because this isn't new to you, yes. Right? This isn't new to you. And so, yeah, I just want to say that happens physically, it happens mentally, it happens emotionally, and for me, it also happens spiritually.
Yes, and the right recipes are out there, just lying out there, and man, like this is something that it gets highly underlooked. There's the spiritual aspect, which I'm also a man of. I also practice Christian faith. It goes. It takes you a long way. Makes you see what people can see. And whatever faith people practice, or whatever way you look at the world beyond the physical realm, how you internalize that, it's so powerful. It's so powerful, and I think, maybe this is an episode for another day. But there's something about the faith and how you. And you're a very practical person. You're an engineer, so you're not just you're not a philosopher. Which by default is also but there's some practical.
I'll take it, Jacob. I'll take it.
But I like that you mentioned that, because I used, and when I started this podcast, right, my experience was not as where I am today, and I hadn't talked to as many people. But what you're doing, it's really hard. I think people don't understand what goes into the day-to-day operations of running a company. You're passionate about it, and know for sure, I can see it through you. Mundane day-to-day stuff can get very exhausting.
It can, yes.
And sometimes people don't really know, because it's really hard. And I'm not trying to make it sound like it's impossible, but you have to have stamina. And I think I bring up this question because I want people to understand that you have to embrace it, but also kind of make it fun. But you have to have a center core. There has to be a core in you, that, irrespective of these externalities and the ups and downs, you still keep yourself. Yourself is maintained. And I think what you just alluded to, the kind of the base of your faith and stuff like that's what keeps you grounded.
Yeah,
that keeps you the same, because it can really wear you out. You can take away. You can lose yourself. So
you can lose yourself, and you can lose your sense of direction. Right. Like you can just kind of be head down, not seeing the forest, but seeing every single tree. And then you look up and you're like, wait, what are we doing again? Which direction am I headed again? And so, you got to keep that bigger picture connection, even when you're in the weeds and you're getting exhausted with the mundane tasks.
Exactly. Let's take the next question very light. This has been a heavy one. Because what is the best advice you ever received? Oh, maybe that's not too light.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. You said light. Hold on. That's not quite like I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know if I can answer that question and properly, right? Like the
Yeah.
best ever. I've gotten a lot of great advice. So the only thing I can do right now is just give you the first thing that comes to mind that was very helpful for me.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember, and this is what comes to mind. If I do another podcast, if anybody hear another podcast, I promise you it may be a totally different thing I say. But I do remember a senior engineer saying to me about, measure twice, cut once. And he just kind of spoke to the idea. For me, it came at a time where I was like overanalyzing, paralysis by analysis. And he's like, all right, cool, measure, make sure you're good. And then go back and like check your work, make sure you're good, measure. But when it's time to cut, like cut once. Don't go back and like, let me keep cutting, right? Like, no, cut once and keep it moving. And for me, that was extremely helpful because I think in my life at that time, I was not only trying to become a better engineer, but I was also trying to figure out how, or more so, I was like this. When you're young, sometimes there's I think irrational fear sometimes that, hey, if I make the wrong decision, if I choose the wrong career, if I go down the wrong path, my life will be in shambles. I'll just make the wrong decision. And yes, there are some bad decisions out there, some bad pitfalls. But I think the simple desire, right? The simple desire to do what's right, the acknowledgement in all your ways, that alone allows you to stay on a path that even if you go the quote wrong way at a certain point, because you have that greater intention, you're gonna stay on the right path. So he said to me, measure twice, cut once. That's advice given in a lot of different scenarios. But for me, it helped me to say, all right, analyze again, but don't keep analyzing. At a certain point, you got to cut and keep it moving.
Okay, I think Dr. Lee, you have to be a motivational speaker if you're not already. Yeah, that's not a career. That's
sometimes I do that. Sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's so true. That's so true. I don't even know how to follow up that because that is. I think there's one thing. If I have to end this episode because I can keep talking to you.
Okay. Cool, man.
I have to boil it down to the last two questions. What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of?
Yeah, and this can be your life, or it can be, about the company.
This is also kind of a new answer for me too, as I reflect as to where I am now. I'm most proud of having created something, and though I'm a long way away from the vision being complete, but having creating something that someone else can believe in too. Like it's so often like I'm a visionary in a lot of ways, and I see what could be, but it's always like amazing to me when someone else latches onto it and say, yeah, that thing you see in your head, I want to support it. I want to be a part of it. And whenever people have supported, and I've seen people support so much throughout the years, people are supporting, to this very day. I am proud of the fact that I was able to steward it in a way, and it ain't about me, right? I by all means, it's not about me. You can ask a lot of people. It's never really been all about me, but like steward in a way, bring it about in a way, take care of this vision in a way that other people can say, you know what, that's actually something legit that I can get behind. I'm proud of being able to do that, and that's real. That's real right there, and that continues to keep me going too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's the purest form of like, as God created the world, like there's this ability to create something, and people. I think that's the true essence of like a reflection of God from a Christian perspective.
For sure. Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, and as God created the earth for us to live in it and appreciate this work, it's the same as build a company. And when people start appreciating this, it's like this reflection. And I think that's the purest form of our essence through God's identity as us being His creation. But that's amazing, man. All your answers just seem so right. I am like,
you ask deep questions. I must say that. Like you say, you have light questions. All your questions are pretty deep. So you have a very introspective interviewing process. So
yeah, I try.
I gotta credit you a little bit on that one.
I tried. Thank you so much, Dr. Nate.
Yeah.
The last question I want to ask is, how do you want your legacy to be written?
Yeah. Again, like, see, case in point, another introspective question, right? This is a deep interview, man. Shout out to the listeners. I know everybody, the audience is appreciative of what you bring out of your guests. So, how do I want my legacy to be remembered? I want to be remembered as someone who wasn't totally consumed with himself, but really believes in something and worked hard to bring it. That always wanted to treat people right, and loved his wife and his kids, his family, and wanted to do right by them as well. Yeah, that's what I want my legacy to be.
That is so clear. I would strongly recommend that someone writes about STEMedia. And also I think this podcast kind of shares a story, and to our listeners, we appreciate you listening throughout this episode and learning more about Dr. Lee. But I think you make my day just a little bit better.
Oh man, that's touching, man. That's touching, man. Well, hey, listen, this is a unique podcast, right? And even your title, "Doers Within Us," it just speaks to the idea that we all have something more inside of us, something more that needs to get out, that needs to be executed on, it needs to be done, right, before we are done. And so I just want to thank you for allowing me to share my story and a little bit of the doer within me. And hopefully this leads to so many other people, as I know it already has, right? Other people bringing that which is inside of them out into the world as well.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And Dr. Nate, is it okay if people reach out to you?
Sure thing. Yeah.
Go ahead. Please.
Yeah, NehemiahMabry.com, NEHEMIAH, MABRY.com. That's my personal website. And then STEMedia, 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 one word with one M.com/connect if you want to see some of the things that we're just kind of pushing right now. And happy to have anybody reach out. Happy to do a motivational talk.
Yes, exactly. Launch your career right here.
If that's what you need for your students, have a passion about inspiring in the world of STEM. So I look forward to connect with anyone who wants to reach out.
So Dr. Nate, you have people from, don't be surprised, you have people from Botswana, Nigeria.
Hey, I love it. I need that in my life.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Thank you. And to our listeners, again, this is our recent collaboration again with African Diaspora Network. Dr. Nate was brave enough to be our first guest. He signed up first, and as I think it has been a great treat from what we have learned today. And we thank you.
Thank you.
And we thank you. And we're excited. I'm really excited to see what you're gonna do next. I'm gonna follow up you on LinkedIn, man. I'm gonna find you, and I hope you can come again on the podcast, because we'll love to hear what happens in the next 6 months. You're welcome anytime. Anytime you have any updates, please. We'll love to have you again to give us some words of wisdom, some motivational talk, which is based on truth. You know, you have done the work, you have done the hard work. It's not just talk. So we really love to have you again when you have the chance.
My pleasure.
Yes. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Talk to you.